Dina, you figured it out. You did it.
It happened by itself. It was magic.
Oh, okay.
But I think I
Oh,
would have
someone,
figured it
oh,
out. I would have
we're
figured it
easy,
out.
easy
Oh my God, that's so cute. It's a miracle.
Yeah, magic, aka Hasham. Okay, let's do it. So I think I'm going to continue my sex talk today. So if you guys missed last week, you'll have to go, review it in your own at your leisure. Um, let me. Oh, I am spotlighted. Okay, great. I'm just going to do that real quick. Okay. So last week we talked about um, bringing the principles of Eros into the realm of sexuality and into one's sex life and into, that kind of world of things. And, one thing I'll sort of say a couple of things that I said last week and kind of reiterate those because I think it's almost good to, I just think it's good to like mention these things every time this conversation happens because Eros based sex really is so different than what we were taught by the world. Um, and so one of the things is that the principles of Eros are really principles of relating with. And so it's relating with anything. Like, so those principles can be brought into any arena whatsoever. And none is like better than any other, but sexuality is obviously for for most people, an area with a lot of it's fraught with potential. It's powerful. You're working with very powerful energies. And in bringing the principles of Eros into all these different areas of life and relating with, you're kind of unlocking the erotic impulse. You're unlocking the erotic impulse in all of those areas in a certain way and harnessing it for the purposes of liberation. And you're doing the same thing when you're doing the same thing when you're bringing the principles of Eros into sexuality. And that's not the kind of sex that we were taught to do. We're taught to really try to get something from sex. We're taught that it's supposed to yield us the pleasure we want from it in a certain way, and like that it's supposed to look a certain way and feel a certain way, and maybe be like the movies or something like that. And it's often not that way. And then um, some of us can then feel defective because of it. That's a common experience. Oh, my sex life doesn't look the way I thought it should, and so there must be something wrong with me, and it goes into all of those kind of territories. But um, on this path, sex is very much about harnessing and utilizing these nuclear level energies for the purposes of liberation. And so you're really using all the different things that come up in the sexual arena for that. You're not avoiding any of it. You're not trying to make it pristine and perfect and clean and pretty and pure. You're really using all of it for this, kind of alchemy and this plugging it into, what some of us here would call bodhicitta. Some of us Tibetan Buddhist practitioners here would call it bodhicitta, like that sort of a higher commitment, vow, desire to get out of suffering, get out of the causes of suffering, and help get others out of suffering, essentially. And so the approach to sex is just so different on this path than how most of us learned how to approach it left to our own devices. And so last week we talked about the spot and what that is and what role it plays in sexuality. We talked about staying connected no matter what and what that means. And we talked about goallessness, which is a really great one. And so this week, I wanted to talk about communication. I touched on this a little bit last week, but I want to talk about communication. So I've been having this experience lately in this realm where I'm seeing a new level of how there's because there's so much sensation happening in a sexual experience, like whether it's pleasurable sensation or anxious or nervous or excited or anticipatory um or like too messed or whatever it is, right? There's a lot of sensation no matter which way you slice it. There's just a lot of sensation in any kind of intimate experience of this nature. And because there's so much sensation, there's just this tendency get to allow yourself to get sort of revved into a really fast, intense kind of like thing. And then you're sort of through the experience, you feel like 10% of it, and then you're bam out the other side, and you're like, okay, we did it, you know. So it was a little bit like that. And so any great lover knows that slowing down and savoring is key. And in doing that, there's communication that happens inside of that place. Obviously, lots of nonverbal communication, but there's verbal communication too. And one place that women tend to get stuck is, and I talked about this a little bit last week, but women are the source of like the orgasm in the experience. And by orgasm, I mean the orgasm state, not climax. Women are the source of like the erotic impulse in the experience. They're the source of the orgasmic energy in the experience. And they really know believe we don't know. And then we project onto our partners that they should know. And then in their very best efforts to show up how we want them to, they also pretend they know. And then we're pretending they know, and they're pretending they know. And then a lot of times all of the communications that can kind of thumbs up myself there. A lot of times all of the communications that could be happening in the experience that would help it be more on the spot, you know, would help dial it in more, would help both people feel more relaxed, more intimate, more tuned in, and more kind of in the bodhicitta aim of liberation, so to speak. All of those communications fall by the wayside because women doubt themselves and sort of, you know, put this whole thing onto their partners. And so I've begun to develop like a real taste for throughout my, you know, erotic path. I've developed much better communication in sex, and you know, there were certain points in my development and in my own practices and things where I really pushed my edges with it, you know, and would you know, pretty much stop an experience partway in and just be like, I don't like anything we're doing right now. Like, we need to change everything. How do we change it? I don't even know. I just know that I don't like anything we're doing. You know, like that kind of thing, like not making it not making it sound pretty, not making it very fun, just kind of being messy, kind of being picky, not really knowing where to take it. You know, like I've definitely had my periods of time like that. And I'm hitting a certain point right now where I'm starting to develop, this is how I think of it. I'm cultivating a taste for the in-between moments. And this is what I want to kind of zoom in on in this talk today, is these in-between moments. So, because I just think that whole idea says a lot about us sexually and culturally, that there is even an idea of in-between moments, that there's a separation idea even at that level of subtlety in experience and intimacy with someone, that there's like this whole series of feelings, moments, sensations that are the thing, and then there's this whole set of things that are the in-between moments that are not the thing that I, you know, want to be doing, or that are the point or whatever, right? And as this stuff goes really deep. Uh, and I've begun to develop a taste for the in-between moments where I'm starting to realize at a new level, those are the most intimate parts of the experience. Like what I think is where I'm trying to get to is less intimate than the in-between moments where, like I adjust something or I admit something or I ask for a desire or the other person shares an insecurity with me that they're having or something that came up for them, or like um, on a really basic grounded level, the most classic in between moment is like stopping to put on a condom, you know. That's such a that feeling when you're like, what do I do while you do that? Is there any way to make this hot? Like, oh, okay, it's not a smooth situation anymore. We're fumbling. Okay, how do we, it's like that moment is an in-between moment and is like just a great grounded example of like how it feels to, I don't know, it's like it feels so real in that moments with in those moments with someone. And there's no, it's so naked, like everything else up to that point might have had a touch of performance, or like a little bit of like a soji screen of protection of the level of nakedness, vulnerability being seen just as a person, or like there might have been like a sexiness to it or something like that, that like covers a little bit of that feeling. And then you get to that moment and it's just so real. It's so stark. And it's just two people and like desire, or like hunger and arousal, and that's it. Just naked arousal. There's nothing else. There's no performance. There's no particular sexiness there. It just is. And there's actually so developing a taste for those kind of moments and really like sinking into those moments is kind of what I'm talking about today. Really sinking into those moments, savoring those moments, relaxing into them instead of tensing. And I've started to kind of play with like even making those moments like bigger, you know, um, like uh, like slowing down an experience and saying like, oh, I thought I felt you get a little distant a minute ago when we were doing this particular activity. How are you feeling in our experience so far? And kind of opening up those moments. And and there's this line in the Making Love Sutra that I just love. It's at the very beginning. We posted this sutra last time, so some of you guys might have gone in there and um, reviewed it if you hadn't read it before. But I just love this whole first paragraph, the first couple paragraphs. So to practice the art of making love. Hold on one second. Get rid of that thing. Let me just share this thing. I'll put this over here so I can see you guys. Okay, can you see it? Okay. I'm letting Kelly in. To practice the art of making love is first to shake the mind and senses free of anything that has accumulated. This can be challenging because making love can feel so rife with meaning that we may want to reassure ourselves we know what we are doing to cover the fundamental insecurity we feel. So this is kind of the origin of performance in sex, is really what this is pointing to. But that insecurity is sex itself. I just love that. That insecurity is sex itself. It is the substance we are working with. Feel it, turn into it. It is likely a little tight, a bit shaky. There will be a pull to focus on our partner or the various instructions for how to act in response to this fundamental shakiness. The difference, we will likely hear a barrage of suggestions and opinions like in our inner dialogue. We keep driving our attention into the shakiness. The difference between making love inside this insecurity and outside of this insecurity is the difference between a photo and the actual experience, 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional. Inside of this security is the dimension of sex. Our mind will want to run fast, a response to insecurity. Instead, we get curious, and then it just goes forever. It's so long. Just look at this. It's so long. It's so wonderful. It's a really long guy. And so I just love that so much. Like, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So those in between moments are, here, I'll put the link to this so it's really easy for you guys. Oh, thanks, Russell. Thank you so much. So those in between moments are like little portals or access points into the actual dimension of sex. Those moments, those little insecure moments where you don't know what we're doing next, or we're not quite on the spot and you need to say something, and then you find the courage to say something. When you admit, I had an experience with somebody the other day, and there was this really beautiful moment where we were kind of shifting activities within the experience, and he quite naturally, which I've took to be a really big compliment for, like, the space that I had helped create, where he felt relaxed enough to pretty casually, but like with good attention, share about like a thing that comes up for him when this particular flavor comes out in an experience, and some experiences he's had in the past with it, and some insecurities that he has around that type of flavor and why. Or maybe insecurities in this case, it was insecurity, but it was like fear of women responding in a certain way and all this stuff. And it could have been like, part of it involved him talking about a woman from his past. I mean, there's so many different things where I could have been like, this is a killing the moment, or something like that. Like, there could be these, like, it's like the programmed responses that the sutra is talking about, like there's these voices that come in that could be like, well, all of his attention certainly isn't on me in this moment, like whatever, right? Like, there's all these different little things that can come up. But I've started to really develop this taste for those moments. And so I'm retraining my mind to, instead of thinking, oh, okay, like, weird moment, let's get through this. It's like, no, how do we use this moment as a portal to like deeper sex, deeper intimacy, more truth, more realness between us, like more authenticity between us, like more honesty, and a deeper sense of relaxation, because there's nowhere to get to, right? Goallessness, like we talked about last week. And so it was actually this really cool moment that I loved, and it really did open it up a lot more, and we kind of had this dialogue about it, and I made some requests during that, so that we could kind of stay in the experience while we had this dialogue about it. And it's not like nobody knows what they're doing in sex, really. You like have intuitions, and you have a sense of how you would enjoy it going in that moment. Like, okay, we're going into an insecurity spot, it's vulnerable in here, like it's a lot of sensation. I know personally, when I'm going into a spot like that, I want to slow down. I want to tune in. Still doing some kind of like gentle, stroking activity or something like that is really helpful during that time. It helps keep the arousal flowing while you're kind of having that experience. It helps keep your body like loose, open, relaxed. So there's like ways that I intuitively will think that how I would want it to go. And so it's really just a matter of trusting that, because literally there's no script and no one knows what they're doing. Like, most of the time, most of us are just like pedal to the metal, trying to get through these experiences. We are putting in a lot of time, effort. I mean, just an insane amount of, if you think about, you know, a lot of like the amount that people spend on like how they look and how they appear and like the car that they drive and the like even like the job that they have and stuff like that. Like a lot of times all of this stuff is to like attract the opposite sex. You know, it's like we go through, or the same sex as the case maybe. I mean, we go through a lot of effort to get into these situations, and then we like as fast as you can, like through it, you know, and then you're like, oh yeah, I made it. Thank God that's over. And then you like breathe for 5 seconds, and then you're like clicked into the next, how to get yourself into that situation again with the next person or that person or whatever it is, right? And so it's like, it's just very, you know, we have this kind of bizarre approach, and it's like, how do you just create it where you can relax so deeply into the experience that, you know, all of these in between moments become the experience, like that it becomes more about connecting, um connecting with the other person, but just connecting with everything through the other person, you know. Nicole did the series of talks on sex and like consort relationships and arousal and all of that this year. Those are on the Eros platform, YouTube. If you guys want to watch those, like they're just absolutely incredible. If you didn't follow along as she went, but or I mean, rewatching them is great too. A bunch of us are rewatching them right now, but you know, she talked a lot about the network, and when you kind of, in my experience, like when you utilize these insecurity moments to enter the actual dimension of sex, and you can tune into the network through the connection with this other person and have this greater experience of feeling your place in this larger network and grid of connection that exists all the time. And that's, I think, the deepest spot that we're trying to get touched, is that feeling of total wholeness and a total sense of being one with, while also having like a sense of your own being at the same time. And, you know, and to get that spot touched, we're doing a lot. We need to do less. We need to do less. Less is more. It's like we're doing way too much in the wrong areas, and we're doing way too little in the right areas. So yeah, so this is, you know, this kind of conversation just has openings in every direction and feels super like I could just talk about this forever and ever, but the main thing I wanted to bring to the table today with my talk today is this idea of like the in-between spots, and are they really in between, or like how do you make them into, you know, kind of these access points into the dimension of sex itself, and how communication in an experience can open that or unlock that or facilitate that, and how the communication in an experience can become, the awkwardness of it all is just so sweet, you guys. Like it's actually so sweet. It's like that's the sweetest part. The sweetest, tastiest part is the moments of just realness between two people that are awkward, and there's no fronting, no performance, no mask, no cool, just naked awkward people with the desire to connect. I think I want to bring more of that into the world. Like I want everyone to have more access to that, you know. And this is like down here in the fleshy valley of the Eros path conversation, and then there's the high level of like utilizing these energies for the purposes of liberation. And but this utilizing the awkward moments and the in-between moments and like using insecurity to access that deeper dimension of sex is how to do that. It's like how to do that on the micro level, how to do that macro thing. So yeah, so I'll leave it there for now, and then we can open it up for discussion and conversation and that sort of thing. And we'll just see where we go. And I might even bring in another sutra quote, because there was another sutra that I sent in the chat last week too, that I was thinking about today. Jack.
Yeah, I was just going to mention it as you were talking, that this insecure moments, that's because we're always performing, right? But at those moments where you're actually just yourself, right? That's what you're talking about. And it seems to me anyway, that, and it's like you're saying, it's awkward. You don't, because you're actually showing your true self at that point, right? And we don't like to do that. So we want to somehow or another, appear more macho or appear more sexy or whatever it is, right? But yet here you are, you're just being yourself at that moment and being, I hadn't thought about it in that way. It's an in-between state that you really need to reside there.
Mm.
And then you could, it's kind of, it's like it's the spot, but you pass by it so fast that you don't notice that was it. And you go on to something else,
Exactly. You don't notice that was it. It's like, because it looked weird, you're zooming along. There's this seemingly quite random doorway that looks really awkward and insecure. And you're like, no, thank you. I don't want to feel awkward and insecure while I'm naked with this person. Like, I want to feel cool. And that doorway looks dumb, zoom right on past. Yeah, exactly. You zoom past and miss that's the access point to like the deepest levels of all the things that we're most in that experience to try to touch.
Right. If you could stay in that, that's where the joy is. It's like I can feel it as you're talking about it, It's
Yeah. Thanks, Jack. Russell?
One of the sutras talks about a gap, and that on either side of the gap, one side is contrast and one side is awe. And the gap is this space where contrast is like, I'm Russell, I'm me. And then awe is the other side of like, I only know what I know, what I've learned from merging. But it seems like in any relationship, there's this period where, there's two separate entities, and you spend some time sort of getting on the same page, and then for a while you're definitely there's a sacred third happening, and then you go, okay, I'm cool, or I'm like sure, or I'm home, and then you get to do whoever you are, and so does the other person, and that just causes a separation to happen because you're not actually the same person, and then both people go, uh-oh, we don't want to get too far apart again, and you give up your personality or your identity so that you can kind of come back together, so that you can be merged again, so that you can feel like I can do whatever I need to do, and that causes separation again, and then there's there's this rhythm of like coming together and moving apart, and like being sensitive to that space um, between being too far away and being too lost in togetherness. It just seems like it's a perceptible thing.
Totally. Yeah, it reminds me of that sutra we studied, I think on Tuesday, the sweet spot between intimacy is the sweet spot between merging and separateness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like that. It's very dynamic. You're always feeling for the sweet spot. It's always changing. There's like a rhythmic flow to it. Sometimes you can kind of tell where it's going next, and then other times you are like, oh my goodness, we're in a totally different, okay. Yeah, I like the contrast and awe. That's a cool way to look at separate and merged. That's pretty. I like that. Thanks, Russell. Lisha.
Hey, Aubrey, I have a reflection for you. I appreciate that sutra. It's a beautiful sutra, and what I most appreciate about the talks you've been giving is like there's like there's over here I experience like the way you talk about things is very down to earth, and you give great practical examples while also really kind of touching the deeper truths of the sutras. Like for example, your example of that awkward moment when it's time to put the condom on. I think it's just such a great relatable example of that, like that little gap where it's the in between, and it's like, what do I do here? Like, just really, really enjoy your way of weaving those examples in. They just land so beautifully over here. Thank you.
Thanks, Lish. Charity.
Good afternoon. I also loved that. But when you were describing the awkward moment of the condom going on, I was like, I love those moments because it usually gives me a moment to just like throw my head back and take some deep breaths and just be in my body and like double check with myself. And if there were any runaway thoughts, to dismiss it and then just kind of come back into my body. And then, and like, well, I have never found that things needed to stop just because you were putting a condom on. So that might be part of that too. Like the touching, the caressing, the being in the energetic space with each other, like is still capable. Like you could still do all of that, right? So like, but I love how it creates like a, you know, we're always talking about being in flow and everything flows on kind of like this bell curve, right? Like we go up, we come down, we go up, right? And so like stopping to put the condom on is like one of those semi down moments, right? Like not all the way down, but you know, you're just coming down and you take a breath and then it's like, okay, now let's rev back up into this, you know? So to me, it's somewhere in here. I had it because I was going to read it and now I've lost it. But it was talking about comparing all of this to music. And the thing I love more, the thing that I love equal to sex is music. And I was a musician and a singer for many years. And so, and this is also like, I love the way that she talks about it here because I've tried to compare sex and desire and intimacy to music before and not did a great job of it. But this is actually one of the sutras that I use the most with my clients.
Making love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably like read the sutra at least once a week.
Oh my God. I love that.
Because I mean, we'll spend a whole hour because I'll just like slow it down and have them kind of tap in and tell me what's coming up for them, right? But I feel like there's so much like permission giving in this sutra, like the permission to just be human and to be awkward. and to practice intimacy. How many people just don't understand that intimacy literally is a practice, just like orgasmic meditation is a practice, you know, or going to church is a practice. Like there's many things in life that we have to practice, and intimacy is one of those. And I also think it's a lot about being willing. Like, are you willing to be in that awkward space with each other? Are you willing to be seen? And like, how many people are like, I just want to be seen and accepted. And then when you put your light on them, they're like, you know, it's like this physical, like, don't look at me.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we all do this to some degrees, right?
For sure.
But what I see a lot is the people that are screaming the loudest, I wanted connection, I wanted to be seen, and I wanted acceptance. It seems like the louder they're screaming that, the more they screech away from it when somebody like is offering it to them. And I think that comes out through this sutra too. And not just in making love, but just in life in general, which the Eros sutras are talking about life in general, not just making love, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I love this one. I'm glad I was able to be on today.
Me too. Yeah.
I had cancellation. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll get on.
This is your world.
Yeah.
This is your jam.
It is.
But yeah, but listening to you, I just kept thinking like this is where this is such a place of women's role in the world needing to come out so much more, you know, like trusting, like we have the thing you described, the ups and the downs, the peaks and the valleys, and it's all just part of one continuous experience. That's feminine orgasm, as you well know. That's feminine Eros. That's
right.
That's the feminine flow of how it goes, and that's actually how like nature works, and it's how like life flows. And we have a natural, like our bodies, that's what our bodies do naturally. But you know, the world is run on this masculine framework, not that one. And so so then men, women, all genders alike are kind of slowly coming out of the masculine framework and into the one that you were describing, where it can just be this continuous flow. And this is where women, just frankly, just women need to just be speaking up way more.
Right. Yeah.
Like we just need to be speaking up way more. And it's just like, it's like trusting that how you want it is right and good, trying things out, you know, dialing it in and communicating that. We need a lot more of that going on. When you were describing it, I was like, we need this. We need lots and lots of this.
Yeah. Like over the weekend, I got to teach orgasmic meditation to a couple. And then on Saturday, I was doing other things like teaching them sensual massage and, you know, vulva massage and lingual massage and stuff. And G-spot, which you and I talked about G-spot stimulation months ago. But, you know, I'm always like, everything for me is about taking it slow and being conscious. Right. And so, I'm being very slow and conscious about the way that I'm teaching these different techniques. And the husband is like, okay, but when are we going to get to G-spot stimulation? Right. But when are we going to get to G-spot stimulation? And I'm like, this is like first thing Friday, you know, like, and I'm like, slow down. And his wife, she just quietly smiles and she'll like give him a little pat, you know, like calm down your eagerness, please. And then when we got to like after they had gone home and they had practiced and then they came back on Saturday, the husband was like, that's it. That's the entire practice. That's all. Like, that's it. And why is it so hard to find the clitoris from this position? And like, you know, so we had like this whole conversation. And then his wife she like end of the day, Saturday, she chimes in and she was like, this was not at all what I thought this intensive would be, but I'm so glad because I think he finally understands just how slow I need him to go. And she kept telling him slower, slower, slower. But when she would touch him, she's like zooming her hands all over the place. And I'm like, it's hard to go slow, isn't it? And she was like, oh my God, it really is. Like, so then we got to have like this conversation about, about Eros, about like being in your body and allowing things to go slow and just let it naturally progress, and allowing the arousal to grow at a steady pace instead of trying to like force it, right? And not having the performance of it. Because she did really good. She did not do any faking. I was so proud of her. And the husband was like, but I can't tell if I'm touching her right. And I'm like, you just breathe and feel her energy. You can just close your eyes and breathe and feel it, right? And I got to share an Eros Sutra with them too. And like at the end, the wife was like, I feel like this is how it's always supposed to be. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like, it was great.
That's amazing. That's really great. Yeah.
Perfect sutra for me on my Monday.
Excellent. I love that. Yeah. I listening to that, I'm like, it's how when you like just that the G spot got to be exalted in a certain way over other body parts or something. Like you're like, how did we like it's just so funny to me, like when you zoom out, how and I mean, I'm susceptible to these things too. Like I get in an experience sometimes and I will get like I'll notice I have fixation on a particular idea and activity or something that I think we're going to do. And then if it's not headed that way, I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Or whatever. I have my stuff come up too. But it's just funny when you zoom out and you hear other people working with that. You're like, why is the G spot any more exalted than like, I don't know, the back of the knee or something like,
right.
Right. Like the whole body could be a sex organ, And so you got to some incredible places with them that she said, this is how I feel like this is how it's always supposed to be. That's like such a win. It's incredible.
Yes. Well, the funny thing is that, well, I think for this particular couple, the G-spot was exalted partially because they believe that she's never had an orgasm from vaginal penetration.
Oh, I see.
After watching her, I know that's not true. She's just not expressing it in a performative way. So he doesn't realize it's happening.
I see.
Right. But another interesting thing that happened was that through our work together, we actually discovered 2 spots inside the vagina that are actually really powerful for her. And neither one of them were the G-spot. She actually found the G-spot to be very uncomfortable. She didn't like it, which is pretty common, But watching the wheels in his mind just like turn as he was like figuring out that like it's not about the G-spot, really. It's not about any one spot. It's about slowing down and taking your time, and less pressure is usually better, than more, and all of these different things. And they had a great, according to them, they have sex like all the time. They have a great sex life. It's not like a lot of the people that come to me, they've not had sex in many years or whatever, but
right.
So
they're kind of going from good to better kind of
right. So even like having them where they were already satisfied for the most part with their sex life, and they knew they wanted to learn what they were calling tantra. It was not tantra, but whatever.
It rarely is. When people say that, it rarely is.
It rarely is. But by the end of it, after their little weekend, education, the dude was like, yeah, we'll see you in 6 months. We'll do another one. And like they signed up for another intensive like before they left. And then I, sent them the Eros platform. I was like, if you want to better understand what I'm talking about, here's videos and reading. But yeah.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. Thanks for that whole download and share. And I love
You're
that.
welcome. I just had to do a public announcement today on Facebook that masturbating 3 or 4 times a week does not mean that you have sex addiction. Please don't let anyone tell you that.
She's just out here, this lone Oklahoman, just getting sex positivity out into the world no matter what.
Yeah.
Just keeping it real out in the world no matter what.
Come on, go love yourself a little better. Come on.
All right. Any final thoughts, reflections, questions, anything? Oh, let me check if there's anything online. Nope. Okay, cool. I'm gonna wrap us up. Let's see, things to know that are coming up. So Thursday is a big Women Over Dinner here in Harlem, and there's a virtual aspect to it that's on the Eros platform. So if you are a lady and you have lady friends that would like to tune into the speakers for that night and tune into the dinner and do a little breakout room and go through the same questions the ladies in the room are doing in your own breakout room with women. A lot of people say the online experience is also incredibly rich. Obviously in person, you go in person if you can, but even the online experience is actually really fun, and it's different. You get to do it from the comfort of your own home, which is pretty cool. So that's happening on Thursday, 3:00 PT, 6:00 ET. Saturday, there is an Intro to Om class on the platform. I believe that I am teaching with Eli Block. And so if you have friends who ask about orgasmic meditation, and you are always trying to figure out where best to have them start, that's a great place to have them start. And so that event is listed on the platform. I think it starts at 1:00 ET, 10:00 AM PT. It's free, which is amazing. And let's see, we will continue to do these Eros talks Monday through Friday. Tomorrow will be one of the community ones. I'm not sure if Kevin is leading it or Rachel Hemsey or something like that, but it'll be some kind of like legal update community type thing. Alicia does Wednesdays usually, and then I think Maya's gonna do one this week on I'm gonna try to get her to do it, but we'll see. She might do a really cool one this week on the right and the left, and how the right is weirdly embracing the erotic more than the left. And so she might do, she's making a whole article about this right now, and she might do a talk on it. I'm trying to convince her. So yeah, some great things coming up this week. So keep tuning in to these calls, and I love you guys, and I will see you soon.